son. Where'd you find this?
Buckle up, buttercups. It's time to get down to business. It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Totally legit.
It's a Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. I'm your host, James, and we're joined once again by the one, the only, Benny Holmes. Welcome to the show. Applause.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
You know, I've got some things to tell you, Benny. Okay, and one of those things is some of your episodes are the most rated, I guess, or most listened to or downloaded. The Temple of Set. What was the other one we did?
We did UFOs.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clips from those are also pretty good. So the bar is set pretty fucking high.
It's all me, you know.
It really is.
Listen to myself.
This is what I'm trying to tell
you. All the ratings and listeners are me.
Yeah. I see. You're racking up the play counts. Well,
yeah, exactly.
you know, you've collectively made us pennies. I guess fractions. It's really.
Us?
It's really, yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's really fractions of pennies. First of all, we're going to talk about a subject that's so near and dear to me. A subject that is just like a heartwarming trip down memory lane. And it's this thing called Bohemian Grove. Now, I don't know if I was the first person to tell you about Bohemian Grove, but I for sure was the first person to show you video. But anyways, why don't you just give us an impression of what it was like hearing about that information for the first time?
Wow. Okay. I was going to tell you earlier that I don't remember as much from this documentary as I would like.
To be fair, there's not a lot to remember. It's really shaky, shitty video. But
because at the time I'm in James's converted warehouse apartment, that's like a trucker that's kitted out the back of their cab kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, smoking his vape a whole bunch, and he was doing some work and put on this video, and basically it boils down to there's like a huge stretch of wilderness in California that is owned by this club, the Bohemian Club, and they hold camps there regularly and little summer camps where they perform sort of quasi neo-pagan satanic ritual stuff, and many of the campers are presidents and secretaries of state and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I mean that is the a really solid summation of the main points.
Some special thing with a big statue. I'm trying to remember. It's like there's like a phrase for it. I'm sure you know what it is.
Well, the phrase that's associated with the owl is the ceremony that was filmed called the cremation of care.
Cremation of care.
Cremation of care is the ceremony that we watch in that video, and it's like the opening ceremony to the multiple weekends of debauchery or whatever it is. But the 40-foot owl is also interesting, and this is all stuff we'll get into. I guess before we get into it, what is like? So I'm telling you this. You watch this. Like, what is this? Something you had thought about before seeing this, or is this something that was like, this is strange? Not. It's not like I didn't think it was possible, but I just never thought that it happened in the first place, kind of deal.
No, I mean, I feel like you had probably talked about it before.
Probably.
And
probably
just thought of it as one of those things that you talk about. I'd heard of like Skull and Bones or the Masons. I'd seen the Simpsons episode of the Stonecutters.
Stonecutters, yep, classic.
Yeah. So that's really all I knew about this kind of stuff. The only other place I've really run across this besides is that podcast. I hate to bring up another podcast.
No, shout it out.
But the one I shared with you, the Blowback podcast, where they kind of mentioned it in passing, but I was like, hey, I know that. Talking about George Bush Sr. and all the like CIA, sort of Ivy League CIA, hard drinking frat boy types who ran the Cold War pretty much for ever.
Yeah, the better part of 3 decades.
Yeah.
No big deal. Yeah, I think the thing, this may have been like one of the first clubs that I found out about, or like I really did any research on, because I find it's not a coincidence when like interests converge, right? Like, it makes sense that there's a club for super wealthy individuals, because if I were a super wealthy individual, I'd want to corner the fucking market, whatever it was that I was doing. And the easiest way to do that is get all the other rich motherfuckers, aware of what you're doing and get behind it. I mean, it's like notorious that this is where at least Republican candidates are selected. Like it is notorious that shit goes down here, because there's no chance in fuck that all of those important people whose entire lives are dealing with this shit, there's no way they're going there and not talking about it. You know what I mean? And like not trying to wheel and deal in some way to their advantage or the advantage of their interests. That's just, human nature shit. And I think this is a fun gateway, because you're like, oh, this is such an outlier institution. Surely this isn't a thing that is widely practiced. But then, like, if you go look into the elitist frat mentality of a lot of these other secretive orders, Skull and Bones being another prominent one, they used to have their own private campsite. That was a 100-year organization just like this one. And all the bonesmen would go there, and the loyalty to the bones was above whatever they found themselves doing in their life. We can get in a little bit more into Skull and Bones a little bit later, but this just used to be a part of society. Definitely back early 1900s, 1800s, these types of clubs with strange pagan or druidic rituals and practices, just a common thing. This is Aleister Crowley, the Thelema, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Rosicrucianism. Like these were just all things that, especially at that time, people were just into. It wasn't an uncommon thing. I think one of the things that I hadn't ever really done beyond the just knowing what Bohemian Grove is like look up the history of the Bohemian Club. Like, what is the lineage here? Yeah. And honestly, it's fucking hilarious. So I've got this pulled up here. We can just kind of scan through the details. But this club started as a bohemian type club for bohemians, artists. Oh, artists and writers and artsy types who did not have any particular means in terms of money. But this was just a place for all of them to come and wax poetic about being a creative or an artistic.
When was this?
So I'll just read the little blurb here. Bohemian Club is a private club with 2 locations: a city clubhouse in Nob Hill district of San Francisco, and the Bohemian Grove, a retreat north of the city in Sonoma County. Founded in 1872 from a regular meeting of journalists, artists, and musicians, it soon began to accept businessmen and entrepreneurs as permanent members, as well as offering temporary membership to university presidents. and military commanders who are serving in the San Francisco Bay Area. Today, the club is a membership of many local and global leaders, ranging from artists and musicians to businessmen. Membership is restricted to men only. But let me here. This is the important thing. Okay, so Bohemianism. In New York City and other American metropolises in the late 1850s, groups of young, cultured journalists flourished as self-described bohemians until the American Civil War broke them up and sent them out as war correspondents. During the war, reporters began to assume the title Bohemian, and newspapermen in general took up the moniker. Bohemian became synonymous with newspaper writer. California journalist Bret Harte first wrote as the Bohemian in the Golden Era in 1861, with his persona taking part in many satirical doings. Harte described San Francisco as a sort of Bohemia of the West. Mark Twain called himself and poet Charles Warren Stoddard Bohemians in 1867. So that's kind of just like where the term Bohemianism, where that kind of emerges. And then the club is founded in April 1872. But it's like, this is truly, it was artists. Like at that time, they weren't necessarily hippies, but of that time, they were hippies.
Exactly.
The creative types of an even more square and conservative era of time. Even newspaper writers were considered, just a step above a heroin junkie. You know what I mean? It's really kind of hilarious. Huh. It's just hilarious how this club changed.
Yeah, exactly.
From like what it started out as. Let me see. I want to scroll down here because there's a part where they start. Yeah. Okay. Journalists were to be regular members. Artists and musicians were to be honorary members. The group quickly relaxed its rules for membership to permit some people to join who had little artistic talent but enjoyed the arts and had greater financial resources. Eventually, the original Bohemian members were in the minority, and the wealthy and powerful controlled the club. Club members who were established and successful, respectable family men defined for themselves their own form of bohemianism, which included men who were bon vivants, sometime outdoorsmen, and appreciators of the arts. Club member and poet George Sterling responded to this redefinition. Any good mixer of convivial habits considers he has a right to be called a bohemian, but that is not a valid claim. There are two elements, at least, that are essential to bohemianism. The first is devotion or addiction to one or more of the seven arts. The other is poverty. Other factors suggest themselves. For instance, I like to think of my bohemians as young, as radical in their outlook on art and life, and unconventional, and though this is debatable, as dwellers in a city large enough to have a somewhat cruel atmosphere of all great cities. So it's just very funny how it turned into what it is now.
Almost immediately.
Yeah, it was like almost immediately co-opted. So basically, again, these types of social clubs. This is interesting too. These clubs weren't. These were very much of the time. These types of clubs were all over the place. That's why at universities, especially the Ivy Leagues, they have like these Skull and Bones, Scroll and Key, all these other, they're just student bodies. It was like before the modern miracles of today. What else did you do with your time? And you belong to, on-campus activities, and this shit is just, it's legacy shit. It's just hilarious that this really used to be Bohemian Grove. So ultimately, the same kind of organization emerges, but for women. And this is in New York City. I'd never heard of that. This is fucking awesome.
Wow.
But members known as Grovers numbered 125 in 2009, including military, financial, and diplomatic leaders, C-suite executives from Goldman Sachs, Victoria's Secret, Harley Davidson also belonged to the Grove. Former General Services Administration Administrator, U.S. Army General, and Dunwoody. It's just sick. Like the women were just like, we're doing all right.
Very last
Oh yeah, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is a former member of Bohemian Grove. She resigned membership in June 19, 2009 after Republican senators voiced concerns over the group's women-only membership policy. The irony there is very thick.
That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. But this is it's just crazy. Like the people who have been a part of this club are, easily some of the most powerful and influential people in America and definitely in the world. And this is a place where things happen. There's like a lot of discussion about how important talks relating to the Manhattan Project occurred here.
Wow.
This big business goes down here for sure. There's all of these people are not talking business, for a couple, whatchamacallit. Oh wow, this is fucking.
Well, that's right. Was that Alex Jones?
Yeah. Okay. So this is where it starts to get really strange.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bohemian Grove was known about, and I'm just reordering some things here. This is a known thing. This is a thing that people have known about for a very long time. People have been protesting Bohemian Grove since the fucking 80s. This thing has been there for a very, very long time. And it's always made people uneasy. So at first, there was some... Like at one point, that land was kind of being set aside from logging because they had just planted some trees. And, they had gone out maybe camping once or twice, like 2 years in a row. And they really started to amp up their membership with like beefier, wealthier business people, and they just started buying up land, and now they own a shit ton of land. They own like that whole area, and it kind of just becomes this hedonistic, secluded, like anything goes kind of mentality. There's all sorts of stuff about things that staff have had to put up with. Apparently, for a very long time, there was just a long-standing rule that you didn't go to a bathroom. You just pissed or shit outside. Like it was like you're returning to nature. So most powerful business people and politicians in the world are just walking around loaded, drunk, pissing and shitting wherever the fuck they like they're a fucking bear in the woods. That's hilarious to me. And this is like a known thing. Like, yeah, that's just what they did. That's what we did. And they have fucking private security. They've got the local law enforcement that up until really recently used to provide them with private security service.
Really?
So this thing exists for a very long time. And it's one of those things where, because there used to be a code in journalism, in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 30s, people knew about affairs that politicians were having, but there was this line as a journalist that you would never cross. You'd never put that in print because it was, it had nothing to do with their politics or them as like a social person. Not like it is today. It was the complete opposite. So, especially considering this place was literally founded by journalists. And, everything down to the slogan, "Weaving spiders come not here," all relates to shiesty journalism. That phrase is, no one's coming here for a story. Yeah. We're all journalists, but no one here is coming for a story. We don't talk about what goes on here. Weaving spiders come not here. That's an
interesting part of the legacy.
So, yeah, that just is what it is. So this is like a long-standing thing, especially because of what this place was when it was founded, but definitely what it is now. It really is like a no rules frat party for the period of time that they do the retreat, and even down to the cremation of care. Esoterically, the cremation of care is supposed to signify relinquishing yourself from any guilt that you have from any of the things that occurred in the last year. The cremation, you're cremating your care.
Right.
You're absolving yourself of any guilt when you're in these woods. Anything goes, and it's, enjoy yourself to the fullest, or whatever. Like that. But the cremation of care means to burn, set flame to whatever your cares are, and in the ceremony that plays out with the effigy of a human body, right? And so here, this is where it starts to get strange. Okay, so all the club, not weird, professional clubs, social clubs.
Pooping and peeing everywhere, I think.
Well, I mean, even that, like that, especially back during the early 1900s, like the rugged outdoorsman-y types, it was like manly. It was like, I'm one with nature, I piss and I shit right here, blah, blah, blah. It's not, it's only ironic now because most of these people wouldn't survive one night in the woods. Like most politicians, business people that are at these things now, if they didn't have literally a team of hundreds of waiters waiting on them, they would die out there. They'd get lost and they'd die. But back in the day, that was Teddy Roosevelt. We're setting this land aside for the national parks. I'm pissing and shitting wherever I want. Like rugged, rugged individualist, early 1900s American. That was the vibe. Yeah, cowboy kind of shit. And that gets funnier here later. But so there's all these different camps, and all of the different camps, again, just like you'll find with a lot of these clubs, the groups of people or individuals are assigned metaphoric names. That's the clan or the group, that the specific membership that you belong to, and that there's a reason why you belong there. We can get into the list of those here shortly, but the whole point of what I'm saying is all of these folks in this one area, this isn't like a conference, right? Like they're not at a hotel. This isn't a hotel situation. This is in the middle of the fucking woods in, oftentimes what we would consider, the average public would consider, strange attire, in the woods performing these ceremonies, even if it's metaphorical. It's just strange, especially considering a lot of these people are like hardcore or fundamentalist Christian politicians and business people. And to consider that they're going out into the woods to do some decidedly unchristian behavior, however you want to break it down, is just it's just strange. It makes you wonder which is their true religion.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's crazy. But anyways, this is a big thing. And this is a thing that there's been news reports done on it. This is not a fake idea. Yeah. It's just something that there was never really any serious headway that could be made with it because people who were part of the club wouldn't talk about it and they wouldn't really let anybody in. But for example, like this is just one of, I'm sure, 9 million History Channel shows that were made. This is Brad Metzger's, what was this show called?
Decoded.
Yeah, Decoded. This show was all right. Like, there was plenty of shit in there, but oh my God, hang on. 1 second. Did it just get crackly? Is my voice crackly?
Yeah.
All right, hang on 1 second. How about that?
Good.
Okay, 1 more second. How about now?
Still good.
Okay, cool. Great.
1,000 children in the middle of New York City without anybody seeing.
Damn. That's
I love
intense.
when they do that.
Jews are having sex with each other, having sex with hookers. I don't really care.
Wow.
Perfect. That was perfect timing. Anyways, this show is just an example. This is like a part of the lexicon. Okay, so Well, let's get into it a little bit more. I popped these pictures open because these are just fun infographics. This is from a Vox article, and this is a map of Bohemian Grove. And let me see if I can go to the full map here so we can see. Great, right?
It's like
it's like you're going to camp. It's like you're at Walt Disney World. This is what's fucking hilarious. So, here you see the different camps. And this is just one little subsection, right? Here's a little zoom in of that. You see Seven Trees, Wild Oats, the Sun Dodgers, Last Chance, the Camels. These all have some significance dating back to like the beginning of this club when, founding members picked their little area of the, you know what I mean? Like this is just some dumb shit that emerges out of the club. The Hillbillies, this is what the Bushes supposedly belong to. And this is what Alex Jones tells the security there. Oh, we're in the Hillbilly camp. We're from Texas. We belong here. We're guests. So that's when they talk about like the camps in here. That's what they mean. And every member or guest, anyone who's there, is going to be staying in a camp. So then there's like the main meeting area, and this used to just be they went camping one year, and then over time started buying the land and then fleshing out this campsite. And it's it has evolved. But it's got like a very 1950s camping lodge vibe. Like it didn't evolve past that. It got there and just kind of stayed there. And then again, here's more of the map. Here's more camps. And then this is also just a funny note. In addition to famous faces, creepy owl imagery abounds at Bohemian Grove, including a 40-foot concrete one. The owl presides over a ceremony for the cremation of care, where members burn an empty coffin in front of the owl, which was once voiced by Bow Grow member Walter Cronkite for the longest time. And I think when we see Interesting. So I've never heard this, but this is interesting. This post originally referred to the concrete owl as Moloch, which is how I've always heard it referred to as. However, a person familiar with Bohemian Grove who wished to remain anonymous due to club policy says the name Moloch is a mistake or invention of conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. They have also recommended Spy's profile of the event as the most accurate depiction of the party-like atmosphere. What is this? What the fuck is this? You kidding me?
Wow.
There's no way that this... It's very strange. I love when you get down the rabbit hole to these websites that were made in like 1992.
Yes,
I just love it, dude.
That's how you know you're at the good stuff right there.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this was in Spy magazine, November 1989.
Is this, you're talking about like protests at Bohemian Grove. Was there something that like spurred that? Or did it just...
Well, I mean...
It was kind of exposed.
Really, it was one of those things where it was like... At first, it wasn't a big deal, but over time... it became more of a thing. Like the local police force would become their private security. There'd be helicopters and private jets and limousines and motorcades, and it, like the towns around it would just be like, bro, I'm trying to get home, and they have the streets locked down because the president's coming through here. At some point, they were just like, what the fuck is going on here in the middle of the woods? And then of course, like you're already in the sticks, and those people are like conspiracy theorists to begin with. So you start talking about this shit, and they're like, they lose their fucking mind. Like if you don't, if they would have let like a couple locals in, it wouldn't be a problem. Yeah. But because none of the locals are in, they're even more hyper suspect of what's going on there. But anyways, that's a little bit on the camps. This is, I guess, is the same article, just different pictures. So that's fine. Here's another. This is fucking sick.
Oh, that's amazing.
But this
How do
this
they
is
get
like
all this info? Is it just like people who work there and stuff?
yeah.
Yeah.
And these look pretty old. These look like 90s, 80s maybe.
Right.
But here, this is like fucking Disney World. It's a map of Disney World.
Oh, this is like the actual map that people get.
Well, I don't know if this specific thing is or if this is something that somebody just made. But the one we were just looking at, that is. I'm pretty sure that thing, this thing.
Yeah.
I think that was the official map for a very long time. And somebody, they either got a picture of it or they removed it from a pamphlet. Like, dude, this is like a summer camp.
Right.
They had, I'm trying to find some more pictures here, but like, they had that's a book for the cremation of care, like credits, like who played what role. Sure. This is like a advanced summer camp. Here's at the point in time where it was being protested pretty heavily.
Yeah.
But like, you see what I'm saying? Like the local police force would stop being the local police force, and then they would become, this Midsummer Encampment, Bohemian Grove.
Okay, so
it's real shit.
Okay, so we established that it's this huge camp. You got basically, but it's like you were saying that you were about to make this point, I think. So maybe I'll finish it for you. That like it's a little strange, but it's basically just like a big sort of camping party getaway, and it just happens to have all these powerful people, and they're probably talking about stuff besides the talent show. But
definitely, yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess it's sort of like, what, if any, is the other side to it? And maybe there is no other side.
Yeah, and again, like I don't. This is my thing. This is my thing with all these things. I don't care what they're doing in there. Don't fucking pretend to me that you're some hyper Christian person and then go in there and do those things in there. Like, just don't lie to me. The lying, that's you start to see the lies and the hypocrisy, and then you're like, all right, well, if you're not telling the truth, are you telling me the truth? Am I going to assume that you're not lying to me and you're lying to all the people in this club? No, I'm not stupid. Like, this is deals get made in situations like this, like they always have. It's this Bohemian Grove is, like I keep saying, one of many. Typically, people would belong to one of the secret orders at an Ivy League school before they belong to this club. They probably belong to multiple other clubs that seated them appropriately in their life, whether it was a part of their church or whether it was like, the child Masonic organizations, Boy Scouts. Like this was just a thing. Where do you think Boy Scouts got all this shit from? Like, this is similar to Boy Scouts because they were pulling from the same sources to structure this thing. The same, the do the thing, go through the rite of initiation, get the badge, prove yourself, work your way up the ladder, become, dude, if you look at how you advance in Masonry and Boy Scouts, same fucking thing. If you look at how a lot of frats do it, a lot of frats just ripped it straight off of Freemasonry. They didn't even try and hide it. So I don't know. It's just, it doesn't bother me that these things go on. That's not creepy to me. It's not shocking to me that the most powerful people in the world would get together at a retreat that's just for them and talk about things that relate to global whatever. Because that's what they do. It's not a shocker to me. What is a shocker to me is which club do they pledge allegiance to? Are they pledging allegiance to this club or the government that they're supposed to represent us in? Yeah. Which one are they paying allegiance to?
Yeah.
Which one means more? Which one is more of a benefit to them? You know what I mean? Like that's always the question in my mind when those types of people are involved in these types of groups and situations. It's like, I know you're taking an oath in there, and what are you taking that oath to? And does that infringe on any other oaths you may have already taken?
Well, okay, so I feel like what you're talking about is almost a sort of like symptom or side effect of that sort of the basic underlying urge or drive or whatever it is, this sort of weird habit and expectation that we don't even really question of like rich people want to hang out with other rich people. And like that's kind of what it boils down to is like
that makes sense.
We're going to
completely logical.
These like insane lengths to ensure that they like have the best rich people at the like party, really.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a way that in itself kind of like perpetuates and like helps like that habit or sort of social, the way that works in society, like creates so many problems and other things because you have these like insular groups and and I don't know where I'm going with this, but it is surprising how seriously these powerful people take having a good time.
And this is what I'm saying. Like they're serious about this shit.
Yeah.
They're serious about these clubs. They're serious about the oaths of secrecy that they take. They're serious about it. And again, the thought that just goes on repeat in my mind, which oath are you honoring right now?
Right.
Which is it one that I'm aware you've taken, or is it another one that has nothing to do with what you're on the surface, what it says you're supposed to be doing? Again, none of this, what is it? Correlation isn't necessarily causation, right? So it's not to say that everyone who's going into this club is going there to wheel and deal, but to assume that doesn't occur there would be naive as fuck.
Yeah.
But it's it's this huge fucking area, dude. It's always it's such a serious thing. It's such a serious thing, and this might be one of the biggest ones on the radar. But the Temple of Set, like we've talked about other ones.
Yeah.
I guess we should probably do the episode on Skull and Bones too at some point. But I also just love looking. I don't know if they have any of the older pictures here, but this is what it used to be.
Wow.
This is maybe like when it was really starting to get the first couple of rich folks in it, to where they can have like really nice
that's
tents.
Like, yeah, that's like it's a nice little sheen of like coolness or something to the whole thing. So it was just like started by a bunch of businessmen or something. But that Jack London.
Well, there's there's even earlier pictures where it's just dudes sleeping on the ground. Like it really did start just like artists are like, we're going out into the wilderness and we're sleeping. We're going on a retreat and we're going to perform a ceremony and burn away all of our cares.
Wait, so James, how did you discover this? Like, how did you fall down this rabbit hole?
So that is perfect. So there was a time,
little baby James.
We'll save this here. There was a time before any of these things, really when the internet was really just starting to get going. There were a couple things that sent me down the eternal rabbit holes. And there was a point in time where Alex Jones was taken seriously as a journalist.
Yeah.
They gave him time. I didn't do this, so nobody get pissed off at me here. This was nothing that I did, okay? Somebody gave him airtime on local news. Like, he used to be a legitimate reporter. And he used to talk about scandals and more like corruption type conspiracy stuff before really like doubling down and turning into what he turned into. But the Bohemian Grove thing, him filming the cremation of care, was like right at this like cusp. And I think he had been fired, or they had canceled his show, the public access show or the local news show, and he was on the radio, and the internet was just becoming a thing, and he was starting his own network called InfoWars, right? So he started to do these little exposés, and this was one of the first exposés, and he sneaks into, I mean, dude, this, like, he is what he is now, but at this point there was some like altruistic effort in what he was trying to do, and this is fucking balls to do what he did. Like, it's it must have been fucking scary as shit.
I remember like the camera running, and he got stopped by security. Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. He was like, "Oh, we're the hillbillies," and he's from Texas, so he has like a thick Texan accent. He's like, "We're guests, we're with guests from the hillbillies." It's crazy. Anyways, so we'll watch a little bit of this video, but basically, he goes in, him and a buddy, they go in. So did you just stumble across this on the internet?
Dude, shit you not. I don't know if this would have been on YouTube or if I would have like found it on like Kazaa or LimeWire or something, but I remember there was this, and there was, let me see if I can pull up a picture of this real quick.
Were you already into like looking for conspiracy theory stuff?
I mean, I don't think so, not really. And definitely not in the sense that like when this was right around the time when like the internet wasn't even fleshed out, like there weren't even websites where we could go as serious repositories for this stuff, maybe like some like Microsoft Windows 95 bullshit, but it's not like what it is. We couldn't go onto YouTube and search the repository of UFO videos, like it didn't exist, so this would have had to have been like a download, or like E-Bombs World. Like I would have come across this video by way of whatever was the internet thing at that time. The social media. This is before social media, for sure. This is before Facebook, before MySpace, before any of that shit. This would have been like Foucher's desktop computer. Early 2000s, like the first Halo had just come out. We were still watching cathode ray tube television like fucking savages. But there was the cremation of care video, and then this video. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is supposedly an interview with an alien.
Oh, I totally remember that.
This is old school shit, and you and I probably watched it. This is like some shit where we would have been staying up super late at Foucher's or Moshman's house, and we would have just been watching some weird shit on the internet. That's where I found out about this. But it always entranced me in the sense that it's like, Alex Jones actually is one of the only people who's ever he's confronted, there's a famous interview of him confronting at least one congressperson, and the congressperson gets pissed because they're like, you shouldn't know that about Bohemian Grove. You're a charlatan. Wow. But he won't talk about it. He's like pissed off at Alex Jones, but he can't. He's a congressman, so he can't punch him in the face. But he wanted to. Like, you could tell he wanted to.
And he can't like say anything about Bohemian Grove. Yeah.
Right. He's not supposed to. So, anyways, that brings us to here. So, we'll just break this down, and I'm pretty sure. I don't know if this is the whole thing or if this has been cut down. This is the ceremony. And these are all the people sitting here, right? You can't see shit 'cause this is recorded in VHS, but in a moment here, this is Walter Cronkite. And this is the stage, the owl's right here. I don't know if, can you hear that?
Yeah.
And this is apparently like a big production, like even after a couple decades and the rights and orders of the institution start to formalize, even back then they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce the play that season. or it was just like a summer camp, but with billionaire budget. Like even this, everyone has an outfit. There's pyrotechnics. Walter Cronkite's voice is being presented over loudspeakers. You know, this is not. This is serious business. Nobody goes through this much effort for nothing.
There's
you know what I mean?
Works. That's really what.
They're thespians, true blue thespians.
Exactly. The Bohemians.
This is a part that always gets referenced. Like full musical score. Like this is a whole production. And this there's a great movie. I've talked about it a bunch. I'll continue to talk about it because it's an amazing movie. It's called The Good Shepherd. Matt Damon, Robert De Niro. It's about the starting of the CIA.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of the movie, you see Matt Damon as a college student. And then later through the movie, you see Matt Damon as a skull and bonesman. And in not only in college, but in the clubs that he belonged to during college and after that, there's this summer camp frat boy mentality.
Yeah.
There's a production, men dressing up as women, like great Greece. This shit goes back to Greece and Rome. Mm-hmm. The mystery schools of Greece and Rome, and the hilarious, by today's standards, pagan traditions that are being carried on by, again, like this used to be a club, this one in particular, used to be a club for liberal people. It's not anymore.
No.
It's very conservative people. And one has to ask oneself, hyper-conservative people, how are you okay with going and doing this in the woods? Like even the act of going out into the woods and watching this is idolatry. It's against even like the most generic terms. If you asked a modern average everyday Christian to go witness this, they would think something was fucked up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But that's not to say that deep within the esoteric interpretation of modern religions, like what I see here is a correlation maybe with some ancient mystery of Catholicism.
Sure.
There's some ancient mystery priesthood that has some traditions like this. But anyways, go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Well, my thought is almost like, I wonder if the more recent sort of even further right stuff that is kind of anti-Republican establishment, it sort of makes you wonder if this kind of stuff actually did help people sort of like keep their heads and not, the people screaming about drag queens reading children's storybooks aren't involved with these high-level, clubs in one time. It's like they're kind of upstart Trump wannabe, I don't know, social media, and they're the kind of people who hate and are conspiracy type things because of what you're talking about. Right? It's like, well, they're dressing up, and they're looking at an owl and all this stuff, and yeah. I mean,
well, I guess what I mean to say is like there were people, and there have always been people that were a part of this club who would say that, who would behave that way openly, but then they would go to this shit every year.
Yeah.
And that to me, that's the deception.
Yeah.
Which oath did they take more seriously? That one, clearly. They take that one more seriously. This one, they're just telling us what they want us to hear. that's the one that, whatever that oath is, that's the one that we have to be wary of. It's not the one that we know that they've taken. And again, like this is serious shit. This is millions of dollars. They have a huge staff that waits on everybody hand and foot. Some of the most powerful individuals in the world. This is a major fucking operation. And the strange customs and practices, whatever. We could look at the strange customs and practices of any organization. Even watching a court case, watching all the strange customs that have to happen in a courtroom. You know, it's like, it's goofy almost.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, what oaths are these people taking seriously? Now, if there was somebody who was an outward occultist, somebody who was super into this shit, it wouldn't freak me out that they're going there.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. If even some of these hardline Christian people were like, you know what? I'm a hardline Christian, but those are my beliefs, and everyone can believe what they want to believe. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
And they went to this, that would make sense to me. They'd be like, oh,
Right.
okay, well then
Right.
surely he might not agree with it, but he wants to be an American and let people practice what they want to practice.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people historically that have belonged to this club are not those types of people. They're hardliners. They're hardliners saying one thing out there, but then doing something and behaving a completely different way during this, little retreat that they have for themselves every year to pat themselves on the back. So Alex Jones does this, and it's a huge deal. Like, this was this no one had ever seen inside here, and the closest anyone had come is, hearing this from a mile away on their porch or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was major that he kind of blows that open. But then really, like, this is what's funny to me is this is a benchmark moment. This could have been, he could have doubled down on this and been like, here we go. So I'm now going to go out and in the most realistic way possible, expose these things that I'm talking about. But instead, he just took the hard shift to, I'm just going to say whatever will get clicks and views, and I'll just continue saying more obnoxious shit until, So that's why this is always such a funny piece of documentation to me, because it's one of the things that can't be refuted. Like, as much as people want to shit on Alex Jones, they can never take this away from him, because at a bare minimum, there was some altruistic intent with what he was trying to do with this. And it was really when he was honestly so articulate, people thought he was going to be like the uncoverer of conspiracies and scandals.
Yeah.
But then he just, flew off fucking rails, unhinged.
Well, that was like a thing. That was like a trend back then. Like those early internet days. Yeah, like Mad Money, and just people wanted people like screaming and yelling at each other.
We gave it to him.
We got it. Yeah, we went for it. Yeah.
It's just wild.
So what you're saying, just really quick. So your sort of whole deal with this is just that you see it as evidence of a kind of basically putting on a mask to, like, the public persona for a lot of these powerful people is kind of a mask, and that they're
analyzing this as a teenager, like, and thinking about this, working this out in my mind as a teenager, that's when I first start to accept the idea that maybe what is presented to us on TV or in person, maybe that's the lie. Maybe this is the reality. Maybe there's more truth in what they say to each other here than what they say to us when they're not in that club.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That's why this thing has always been an important gateway for me in showing other people too, because of the profound realizations that I took away from just seeing this and understanding the context of what it was.
Yeah.
And it really did, like, make me start to think about it in terms of that. This one isn't the craziest though. Like, this is what's crazy. We didn't even we'll save the crazier portion for the exclusive Patreon portion of this conversation. But this is just one of many. I guess this is why I also like to kind of gateway people into this subject, because there's so much documentation about this one. It's real. There's no disputing. Is this thing an actual thing that exists? Right. It's a real thing that exists. And from this, you can quickly spiral down into similar clubs. Like the rabbit hole gets people to spiral. Yeah, it gets super deep, super duper fast. So, that to me is why there's, bro, every news station over the course of the past 30 years has done a thing on it. Yeah. So what you only want Fox News? All right, I'll go find the Fox News things about, you want CNN? Fine, I'll find what they did on Bohemian Grove. But
Fox, we saw some already. Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. Yeah, seriously, when Vox is doing exposés, when they're analyzing the artwork on the fucking manuals, it's really over.
I think there's just another perspective that I want you to think about.
No, sure, let's hear it.
Which is not so much like the duplicitousness, but the fact that these really powerful people are just as, if not more so, susceptible to peer pressure as you and me are. Which is also a very scary thing to think about.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I feel like that's definitely an aspect of it, for sure, of the phenomena as a whole.
And I would say, especially with how it relates to these types of elite clubs, 100%, it's ruled by fear, 100%. And it is
just
like
the belonging. Like
that's what I mean. I need to, if I want to be powerful, I need to belong to this club. I need to belong to this group. I will do whatever to belong to this group or club.
Well, because that's what's funny when you look at the history of like some of this, like the Cold War foreign policy stuff. It's crazy how it's just kind of like quickly some idea that some intellectual or just somebody has can snowball into like, this is how we're gonna do this,
a whole policy on behavior. Well, and dude, again, like that occurred there,
right?
That is not every time, but in some instances,
probably a few little nuggets that got passed back and forth,
just decided on there. For sure. It's crazy. It's like, it's an equivalent to Camp David, except maybe even more important. I don't know. It's one of those things where it doesn't trip me out. It just is. It's always funny to me how this thing can exist so openly for 100 years and still most people don't know about it. And that's like the power of, the controlling of the perception. I don't know. It's just super interesting.
God bless our Jones.
Yeah, exactly. He's the only one bringing us the truth until he was trying to sell goddamn multivitamins.
I don't mean that. He's obviously
it's a joke, dude. Now he's just a prop to sell multivitamins and fucking whatever crazy idea he just read. All right, we're gonna get into an even more fucked part of this conversation for the remaining portion, but that you're gonna have to join the Patreon and find on there. This first hour is gonna be for free, but the next, I guess, 30 or 40 minutes when we go even deeper into the stranger, more esoteric portions of this conversation, you'll have to go to the Patreon at TLB, the TLB Podcast. I don't even know. It doesn't even fucking matter. Benny, I want to thank you and remind you to stay on. I'm going to do this outro, and then we will continue this conversation. To everybody watching on YouTube, thank you. Please like and subscribe for the sake of Christ. For the sake of Christ, please like and subscribe, please. Please. And thank you, Benny. Thank you, Benny, again for coming over here.
Good to talk to you, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, geez. Is it going to play?
No.
Oh, my God.
I'm not going to play.
There we go. I got it. I figured it out. All right. See y'all.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. The end. With your host, James Oliva. Executive producers, Clint G and James Oliva.
That's obnoxious.
Sound design, mix, and master by James Oliva.
Literally no one cares.
For more Totally Legitimate Business, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Totally Legitimate Business or add us on TikTok at TLB Pod.
When will this end?
Thank you for listening. Now get back to work.
Move it along, buddy.